Hey guys, oop, get some more light going. All right. So, surely you have heard a story of a favorite leader of yours that had some huge setback and then kind of had to overcome something crazy, but then somehow was able to get themselves back to their original goals. One of my favorite stories is Drew Brees. I actually read his story while I was in residency of him overcoming a shoulder injury um, and then getting back into it. So, we are talking today about how great leaders rebuild. So, if you don't know me, Dr. Toriak here, Dr. Ashley Toriak, sorry. I'm a general pediatrician and I love talking about marketplace ministry. How do we build our job and treat it like a missions field? And part of that takes becoming a great leader and making good priorities. So, that's what we're talking about today. So, my story, I just finished medical school, just graduated, and I got sick. I got bacterial meningitis and was treated, but eventually got taken off work, was having trouble working, was having trouble seeing patients. So, I was off work for a solid 4 to 6 weeks. I was off work for a while and had to get neurocognitive testing done in order to go back to work. Neurocognitive testing, by the way, if you don't know what it is, it's a solid 8 hours of testing. I had to take tests and do like physical strength maneuvers, and it was a really long day. I had to do like puzzles and all kinds of things. Um, and anyway, I had to wait for my insurance to get cleared and then wait a couple of weeks to get scheduled. So it took several weeks before I could get in. But thankfully, after I got the neurocognitive testing done, I did pass, at least good enough. They did clear me to go back into medicine. But she said because of the nature of my job and the fact that I was still a little bit slow and impaired, that I was going to need some special accommodations. And so one of the things that we had to do, we had to do a lot of things, but basically I worked with my neurocognitive specialist and with my boss to kind of create some special steps. So I hope you are not having to go through something like brain damage, but if you are, this is a great place to follow along and definitely let me know. Reach out to me and we can chat more about it. But all of us have setbacks and all of us have things that get in our way with our long term goals. Sometimes it's financial things, sometimes it's problems in our family. Different problems can kind of arise. And one thing that's really important to do is to make sure that you're making some goals and to keep yourself safe and to also allow yourself to heal so that you can, again, move forward to where you're trying to go. So, I kind of divided these into different categories. And the first one is just literal steps. And so we had these literal plans that we made that affected the way that I worked my job. So I was limited on the number of patients that I could see. And I was also limited as to how many hours I could work. And that lasted for a while. I had to kind of go to work and prove that that didn't make things worse before I could kind of get cleared to work as some of the other residents did. But even through all of that, I had to regularly meet with my boss, and I had a lot of people watching me. Usually, whatever attending was on with me kind of knew what was going on and would kind of just take extra care to watch my work. So we had literal steps that we did to just kind of make sure we were being as safe and practical as we could. So the second thing to think about is just physical steps. How can we help with your physical health through this journey? So for me, I was a 25-year-old healthy girl and I didn't need a doctor. So first I had to get a general practitioner. That was a big thing. So if you don't have a doctor, go get a doctor. But one thing I loved about my doctor was so great, and she was great about helping me navigate the difference between what was a fear and what was a literal limitation. That was the hardest thing to manage that whole first year. What was a problem I literally needed accommodation or help with, and what was something that I was just scared of. And she did such a great job of helping me kind of work through that. And so having someone that can kind of support you through that is huge. Second, I took supplements. I took vitamin supplements all through residency. I took fish oil and vitamin B12 specifically for brain health, and then vitamin D because we don't get enough sun. Then I also had to prioritize sleep. It was one of the specific things I talked about with the cognitive specialist. And so um, my residency, especially the first 6 months or so, it really was a bit of a mess. So my friends would make fun of me. Oh, you sleep all the time. I don't know how you found all that time in the day. But essentially, I was working about 12 hours a day. That's generally how it would go. And then I would sleep about 11 hours a day. I would come home from work, take a 3 hour nap, wake up for an hour, eat, lay out my clothes, check my mail, and then go back to sleep. I was not doing much. But to be fair, this was just for 6 months. Okay. This was not all of my residency. It was not this bad. But I did have to prioritize sleep and I had to prioritize giving myself time to heal. And the only way to do that was to make some really big adjustments. So, the other thing I had to watch out for was alcohol. That definitely has a big impact on how your brain works. Not a really big problem for me, but she said that a lot. So, we'll throw that in there. And then for me personally, food is a big thing. I tend to forget to eat, especially when I'm stressed out. So I had to actually, I just took like diet shakes. I would do like diet supplement shakes to kind of help me make sure I was getting calories and a good variety of food. Um, after you take care of your physical health, three, mental health. This is a big thing that everybody in medicine always ignores, but it's so important. So I actually checked in with the EAP at our hospital, which was really great. The local like HR department kind of helps with physician health. And so they would actually check in with my boss. They would actually check my work. But they also just checked on me emotionally. They made sure that I was kind of coping with the things that were happening well. I also had to get a counselor outside of this. I had to get a counselor through that was unrelated to all of the medical care and stuff that I was doing. They didn't know anything about how well I was doing, just so I could kind of talk to her. And then I had to figure out ways to put breaks in my day. And the main way I did this was I would just say, I have to go to the bathroom. Now, if you work in medicine, your bladder is on a very strict schedule. So I didn't actually have to go to the bathroom most of the time, but it was a great way to just give me 3 minutes, 5 minutes to walk somewhere else, take a breath. Sometimes I'd read some scripture, just kind of clear my head a little bit, and then come back and start working again. So I literally just kind of made breaks for myself. They weren't obviously huge breaks, but they did help quite a bit. So, what can you do to kind of work some breaks and some mental health into your day? So, fourth, spiritually was another big thing. How can I work on spiritual health? So, I had my whole church kind of praying for me. They were praying specifically for healing, but they also prayed for the patients I would see, the care that I was doing. They prayed for God to really bless and watch over everyone involved. And I could not do like a quiet time. I could not do like prayer and reading my Bible in the morning because a lot of times I had to wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. So not every month, but most months. But anyway, so I actually prioritized church that year. That was my main goal. How can I get to church, if nothing else, in the course of a week? So Sunday mornings, sometimes I had to work, but I could pretty much always go to church on Sunday nights. So that was my main spiritual goal. How can I get around other people of God and get encouraged? And then I also put scriptures literally everywhere. There were scriptures in my pocket, scriptures in my bag, scriptures on my mirror, scriptures next to the kitchen sink. I mean, I literally had scriptures everywhere. So that kind of helped me keep going as well. So, lastly, I kind of just made sure that I was always praying and kind of thinking through what was happening. And one of the ways that was, I had like a little thing that would pop up on my phone. It's basically like a prayer with some scriptures in it. So it pops up at a certain time every day. And if I have time, I can read through it. If not, I can do it later or what have you. And so I'll give you an example. It says, God, I rebuke the power of death, despair, and hardship over my life. Loose its power and influence over my mind, my body, and my strength. God, I am blessed and not cursed, and everything you have for me is good. Breathe into me and fill me with your life everlasting and your peace and joy. Thank you that the war is over. Delay does not mean denial, and you are doing a new thing. So it's a great example of just easy ways I kind of fit all of these things into a very busy, very hectic day. So I think the greatest thing about this was what I took away from it was I had a team. I did not get through this horrible setback by myself. Medicine in general, especially, makes you feel quite alone, but you only make it with the rest of the team. And I think as I'm thinking about it now, I realize how much time and energy they were putting in to help me, which was amazing. And the other thing I think about is that great leaders are not superheroes, right? We are not the Avengers. So we have limits, and sometimes we just need time and we need help. So leaders have to take care of themselves, and building in priorities, building in goals to kind of keep yourself safe and to keep yourself going forward and doing what you want to do is the only way to kind of be able to keep going long term. And as whatever it is that you're doing, if you're working on creating content or you're studying for school or you're trying to finish tasks for work, whatever it is that you're looking at that is a big goal, um, think about some ways that you can kind of accommodate, build small breaks into your day, kind of think overall about your health. And I'd love to hear some of your other suggestions about how to do that in the comments below. And I will see you back tomorrow and we'll talk more about leadership. Have a good one.